Hey folks, thanks for tuning in. I'm here to talk about a short series of videos, hopefully short, that I'm going to be doing on the 7 planets in astrology, the 2 nodes, and the 3 transaturnian planets as well. And what I'm hoping to do with this series of videos is to bring people a commentary that is perhaps more holistic and tunes into the more essential qualities of the planets. And by focusing on these essential qualities, I hope to show how the secondary and tertiary significations of these planets and points are extrapolated or make sense and whatnot. Because what I found is that once you tune into the essential or core quality of each planet, and I'm going to say quality, but it's arguably qualities. Anyway, once you do that, once you tune into what's essential there, right, it makes it much easier to understand why the planets might signify all of these things and people and places and circumstances in the natural world. Because especially in the older texts, you'll find that the planets rule over an abundant amount of things each. And it has to be that way because the planets are synonymous or representative of what are called the 7 rays in ancient mythologies and occult literature. And the 7 rays are sort of they're like the building blocks of reality. They're like the 7 colors of a rainbow, or of the light, the color spectrum, the 7 major colors, that is, that mix together and form the painting of life, and so on. So especially with the 7, the 2 lights and the 5 visible planets, especially with those, which are going to correspond roughly with the 7 rays, right, we're looking at these essential building blocks of reality. And so each of these, we have 7 planets to rule over the millions, if not billions, of diverse things in the world of form, in life, in reality, whatever you call it, right? So that's quite a lot of stuff. That's quite overwhelming. And there's no way that anybody could possibly memorize which planet the extensive lists of things that each planet is said to rule over. To make matters more confusing, right, each planet is not always ruling over the same things according to different authors. So, in one book you might have Mars ruling the root ginger, right? But in another book you might have the sun ruling over it according to a different author. And what knowing the core essence of each planet is, by knowing that, you'll be able to discern much easier and much more quickly which one you think is correct. And hopefully which one actually is correct. Because even though astrology is symbolical, and sometimes 2 very different techniques or ways of treating something can in fact work, and actually often that's the case, as with the tropical and sidereal zodiacs, you'll find that they both produce very accurate results in the hands of experienced practitioners. But at a certain point, there are, I think, some things that make, maybe it's not right or wrong, but some things that make much more sense than others do in terms of the significations and the techniques and so on. And perhaps I'll get into that as I do these videos on the planets. I'm not sure. It just depends how much time I want to spend talking and, perhaps how much time you want to spend listening. But the point is, you should be able, by understanding the essence of a planet, to critically think about what these ancient authors have written, and even what moderns are saying too, because it seems like there's a new book written on astrology almost every day, and good or bad, whatever, that's just the way it is. But what happens is, I think there's a lot of less viable information on astrology on the internet than perhaps there once was, when people were, educated not just through a book, but through their teachers, through some kind of a lineage. And that was a different time. We don't live in exactly that kind of time period anymore, for better or worse. But the point is because there's so many people doing astrology and publishing books on it and stuff, there's bound to be some fumbles. There's bound to be some questionable things that people are saying about the planets and signs and houses and so on. And by knowing the core essence of not only the planets, but also the signs and the houses and the aspects and Arabic parts and things like this, right? More kind of more tertiary things, because the planets are really the primary thing in astrology, even though we think it's the zodiac, but it's really the planets. But that's a conversation for another time. Anyway, what I was saying is that basically by knowing the core meaning, you'll be able to sift through all of the information that you're encountering in books, new and old, or videos or podcasts or articles on the internet and stuff, and you'll be able to say, well, I don't agree with what that person said. And that is something that the world needs more of, and especially the astrological community too, because it's not good to, go around arguing with people and browbeating them like, this is what this means and you're wrong about this. Of course not. That's a waste of time and energy. But it is crucial to be able to go, well, person X over here just came out with a new idea about the nodes or about the sun and Saturn or something, and based on what I know about how these things work in an essential capacity, do I agree or disagree, or am I more neutral towards this new idea, right? Instead of just believing anything that sort of comes your way. And so I may talk about some misconceptions and things like that in astrology. And, I'll give examples of various things, like the ginger thing. Or another example I like is that there's an Indian text or two or more, I don't know, that actually says that the sun rules over bones. But, most of us know Saturn is ruling over bones. So the question becomes, which one's right? Are they both right? What is it? Well, based on my own contemplation of this subject, and I like to delve a lot into the medical side of astrology, that Saturn is the skeletal structure itself, and Saturn will rule over bones as we understand them, as like these solid objects that form the core of the physical body and whatnot, or the blueprint of the physical body in a sense, right? But the sun is going to rule over the vital being and health of the bones, and the sun is going to rule over perhaps the bone marrow and stuff, because bones are very much alive. They're not just they're not just dead matter that's inside of us, holding us together. So in my estimation, I realized it was both, and that they were both referring to slightly different aspects of the bones and the skeletal structure. And then this also brings us to an interesting point, that the sun and Saturn both emphasize our structural integrity, but kind of from a seemingly different point of view or a different place. And of course, Sun and Saturn are about as opposite as you can get. Saturn being the darkest, coldest planet, the most distant from the sun and from the earth that we can see, right? And then the sun being this, great ball of fire, alive, full of light, splendor, and so on. But stuff like this teaches us that opposites at their two extremes are in fact one and the same thing. And you could read more about that in the Kybalion, which lists the 7 hermetic principles that organize and compose reality. Again, 7 rays, 7 principles, and theoretically you could go as far as to say that probably each hermetic principle could be correlated to a planet. But that's more just for intellectual and contemplative fun. I don't know how useful that will fully be in interpreting an astrological chart. So anyway, these are some of the kinds of things I'll be talking about. I just wanted to give another quick example so you can sort of have something to look forward to. And, I'll be hopefully offering a more holistic approach, and I don't take credit for what I'll be talking about. It's really just, it's there for anyone who wants to see it by contemplation. I've gotten some of it from older books. I've gotten some of it through contemplative study and practice and so on. But it's, I can't take credit for anything I'll be saying about it. It's just hopefully it'll make you guys who watch this series more in tune with the fundamental nature of the planets. Okay, so with that, I look forward to having you watch these videos and tuning in. And please hit like and subscribe if you want to see more. Okay, have a great day or evening.